let's look at the world powers. Let's look at Nixon and Khrushchev when they met and talked about the Cold War in Moscow in 1959. Well, what did they do? The famous kitchen debates, where Nixon went to Moscow, and it was the American exhibition. It was one of these first great sort of cultural, quasi-cultural political exchanges of the Cold War. The spotlight of the world was facing these two world leaders as they spent a few days together in Moscow, and Nixon was showing off the American exhibition. And here you had the two representatives of the great world powers, the two superpowers, spending 2 full days essentially arguing, fighting the Cold War in every means possible. It was a Cold War. It was a war of lifestyle and ideology. It wasn't a fighting war. So there they were. That was a major skirmish, a major battle in the Cold War. And what did they do? Did they talk about missiles? Who had better missiles? Did they talk about who had better bombs? Did they talk about the space race? They even talked much about their forms of government? Hardly. They talked about who had better washing machines, who had better homes, who had better gadgets of various sorts, and who had better women. And a lot of their debate revolved around gender roles in the home. Nixon would say things like, well, in America, we believe in taking care of our women, or we believe in making life better for our housewives. And the two words women and housewife were interchanged throughout the debate. And he would continually say that the purpose of the American way of life, really the purpose of the democratic way of life, was for Americans to be free to consume a variety of different kinds of goods so that fathers would be able to provide a certain kind of lifestyle for their families that included a leisured, domestically oriented woman who would take care of the home and in a comfortable, glamorous way be a helpmate and be a girlfriend forever and a good wife and mother, eased in her burdens by the wonders of modern technology. Now, whenever it got down to this, Khrushchev would counter this by saying, we don't have that capitalist view of women. And then he would go on to take pride in the productive female Soviet workers. Well, the American press just demolished that notion. The American press would focus in on the kitchen debate and then say, meanwhile on the streets, we see Soviet women marching along as if they're going to Communist Party meetings. They don't look glamorous like our American women. They don't wear makeup. You might see a few couples strolling in the park, but basically they're an unattractive, unromantic lot. On the other hand, our American women are glamorous, leisured. They don't bother their pretty little heads with politics. They can be there smiling and glamorous when their husbands come home from work, tuck their children into bed, and be there ready to be the total woman. And it was a very interesting battle of ideologies. So, there were some very explicit ways in which the Cold War was actually fought out on these levels. In fact, a great moment in the kitchen debate was when the two world leaders faltered over a toast. And the toast began by Khrushchev trying to have a toast to the removal of bases in Europe. And Nixon wouldn't do it, and he kept trying to change the tone of the toast and have it be something very global and abstract like world peace. And there was this horrible moment of tension when the men could not come together on the appropriate terms for this toast until at one point Khrushchev eyed one of the American waitresses who was walking by to serve whatever. And to relieve the tension and distract from this moment of really policy crisis, he catches Nixon's eye, and they both sort of glance over at this woman, and Khrushchev says, let's just drink to the ladies, at which point Nixon says, we can all drink to the ladies, and they had their toast. I mean, it was a really wonderful moment of trying to back off into something that was safe terrain for the two of them, and yet, of course, in the whole conversation they had, they disagreed on the role of women as much as they disagreed on everything else.